Hey everyone, I've been using speed paints for a few months now, and with Speed Paints 2.0 coming out, I thought I'd paint my bottle caps in their associated color and give my thoughts on them. In order to do this, we started with a 9-inch pizza box and a bottle cap. We then traced out the bottle cap 12 times on the pizza box lid. We chose 12 because we didn't think all 23 would fit on one. Next, we took an X-Acto knife and cut out all the circles we traced. Now, there might be different methods of doing this that you might choose if you were interested in doing this, but this is what we decided to try for our first time trying this. This is what our pizza box looked like after we had cut out all 12 holes. Next, we put 12 of our speed paint bottles into the holes we just cut out, and then we closed over our pizza box. The box closed over pretty well, so I was really happy with that. We then spray primed black those bottle tops, and then once those were dried, took them out, replaced them with the other 11, and then did the same thing with those. Once they were dry, we just opened the box and popped them out, which was easy, but did lead to one little issue that some of the black rubbed off. So if we were to do this again, we would either cut them out of the box or make the holes just a little bit bigger or smoother. As you can see, some of the paint did rub off, so we just had to touch that up a little bit. In order to see how the speed paints look over varying shades, I decided to do a simulated slap chop over all of the bottle caps. So I'll be starting with a gray dry brush. Now I'm looking forward to having this done because anytime I'm going to choose a color, I have to look up what they actually look like, because I don't find the bottle or the box actually shows what the color is. And so I'm looking forward to being able to look at my bottle cap and see what color I'll be painting with and what it's going to look like once it's on my model. Next up in our simulated slap chop process is our white dry brush. I'm hoping that by having the tops painted, it'll actually even encourage me to use some colors that I might not otherwise go for or ever use. After finishing my white dry brush, it was time to move on to painting my bottle tops. It took me about 3 drops of each speed paint to do each bottle top in their respective color. I did each bottle with only a single coat, even if it was a color that I would normally do multiple coats with, because I wanted to be able to look at the bottle and see what it would look like with only a single coat when I was choosing my colors. Okay, so our bottle tops are painted and dried. So we're going to start with our greens. This is our Absolution Green. It's a dark forest green. It covers well, normally only needs 1 coat. It's one that I've used a fair amount, and overall I like it. I like how well it covers, and I like the color. Next up is our Camo Cloak. It's got more of a gray green. It's got less color to it. Still covers well and goes on fairly smoothly. It's one that I've used a fair amount when I need something that I kind of want to be a go-away color, something that I don't want to stand out as much. So I like it for that. Next up is our Orc Skin. This is a brighter green. It's got a lot more color to it than our other greens have, and it's a lot brighter. I've used it a fair amount. I like it for the actual color, and I like how smoothly and how well it covers. It only normally needs 1 coat as well. Okay, next up we've got our Hive Dweller Purple, which is a very dark purple. If you wanted to make it a little bit of a lighter purple, you could use your Speed Paint Medium to do that and cut it with it. It has really good coverage, normally only needs 1 coat. It's one that I haven't used as much as I would like because there's just not as much use for purple. So I like the color. I don't like how much I don't get to use it just because of the use for purple. Next up is our Purple Alchemy, which is a dark but bright pink. It has a lot of color to it. It covers very well, goes on smoothly, normally needs only 1 coat. It's one that I haven't gotten to use very much at all. I like it for the color. I like pretty colors. I wish I had more use for it. Next up is our Plasmatic Bolt. It's kind of a teal turquoise color. It doesn't go on as well as some of the others we've talked about so far in terms of coverage. It normally requires multiple coats depending on what you're doing. It's one also that I haven't used as much as some other colors. So I like the actual color, but I wish it went on a little better. Next up, we're moving into our blue. So this is our first blue. It's our magic blue. It's a very bright, vibrant blue. It has a lot of color to it. Has good coverage. Normally only needs one coat unless your first coat is very thin. Then sometimes might need a second one. It's one that I've used quite a bit. I really like this color overall. I like how smoothly it goes on, and I just like the actual color. Next up, we have our High Lord Blue, which is a little bit of a darker blue than our Magic Blue. It has good coverage, it goes on smoothly, needs only one coat normally. It's one that I've also used quite a bit. I use both the High Lord Blue and the Magic Blue as the base coat of my Ghost Minis a lot, so I like this color as well. It's not that much different than the Magic Blue, but it's obviously different enough that they made both of them. Next up, we have our Cloudburst Blue, which is a very dark blue. Again, if you wanted to make it a little bit lighter, you could use your speed paint medium. It has extremely good coverage. I don't think I've ever used a second coat, but it is one that I haven't used a whole lot because I don't have a lot of use for this color. I've used it for some cloaks and things like that. Overall, it's not my favorite color. I don't have a ton of uses for it. Okay, next up we have our Runic Gray, which is kind of a blue-gray. It is a light coverage on the first coat, so normally needs multiple coats. It is one that I use a fair amount when I'm looking for another one of those kind of go-away colors that doesn't stand out a lot, and I'm just kind of looking for something that kind of hides in the background. So I like it for the actual color. I don't like how well it goes on with the first coat. Next up is our Gravelord Gray. This is a gray, and again, it doesn't go on the best with the first coat. Normally does need a second layer, and it is another one that I have used quite a bit. I like the actual color once it gets there, but I do wish it went better with the first layer. Next is our Grimm Black. It is, as the name says, black. The coverage is okay, depending on how much paint is on your brush and how thick your first layer is, but does sometimes need a second coat. It is one that I use quite a bit. I do like the actual color once it gets to the coverage that I want it to be. Moving into our second row, we've got our first of our reds. This is our Slaughter Red, so it is a darker red. It has good coverage. It goes on very smoothly. It is one that I've used a little bit. I don't always have a ton of use of red. So overall, I like the actual color. I like the way it goes on. Next up, we've got our Blood Red. It is a little bit of a brighter red, still goes on smooth and has good coverage, but can be a little bit lighter than you might like with one coat. So depending on what you're doing, you might want a second one. Again, same with our Slaughter Red. I don't use it as much as some of my other colors just because I don't always have that much red to paint. So I do like this color. I think I like it a little bit more than Slaughter Red overall. I don't find they have that much difference in them. They're fairly close. Next up, we have our Fire Giant Orange. It's kind of a little bit of a burnt orange, and it's one of those that doesn't go on very well with the first coat. It kind of just doesn't have very good coverage, doesn't go on smoothly. It is one that I have not used a whole lot, and overall, because of those reasons, I don't really like it, and overall, I just don't really like the color in general. Now moving into our browns, our first one is our hardened leather. This is kind of a lighter brown with a little bit of a red tinge to it, and it has pretty good coverage. It goes on smoothly. Knowing minis, I use a lot of different browns, so I might use a second coat if I wanted to be a little bit darker to make more different browns. So it's one that I've used a lot. I like it. I like how well it goes on. Next is our dark wood. This is a very dark brown, and it covers extremely well. It's very smooth. I don't think I've ever used a second coat of it. This is another one that if you wanted to lighten up, you could use your speed paint medium to make yourself another brown. I've used this one a fair amount, so I like this one. This is probably one of my favorite ones to actually paint with. Next up, we have our sand golem. This one is kind of a very orangey brown. It has good coverage and actually goes on quite smooth. It is one that I haven't used a whole lot, but after painting the bottle top, I might actually use it some more. So we'll see if I do, because I like it more than I thought I would. Next up, we have our Pallid Bone. This is kind of a sand tan beige color. It doesn't have great coverage on the first coat and normally needs multiple coats. It is one that I use a fair amount, and overall I like the color, but I don't love how many coats it takes. Next we have our Crusader skin, which is kind of a Caucasian skin color, peachy color. It is another one that doesn't have great coverage on the first coat and needs multiple coats, especially if you're doing it over a gray and white dry brush. It is one that I use a lot because they don't have a ton of different skin tones. So I like it because I don't have a lot of choices for skin tones, and the color ends up being one that I do like, but wish it just went on a little bit better and more evenly. Next up is our Zealot Yellow. It is yellow, and while the paint job on this bottle top isn't the best, I didn't do my best job there. The coverage is normally okay and needs one coat. It's not one I use a lot because I find once it goes on, it kind of turns into a little bit of an orangey color. So it's one I don't use a lot, and I don't normally end up loving the color. Next up is our Malignant Green. It's kind of a greeny yellow. Its coverage is okay, but normally I do end up using a second coat just to even it out and make it a little bit more smooth. It's one that I do use a fair amount on different creatures, so I like it because it does give me a skin tone for a lot of different monsters and creatures. And I don't actually like the color as a color in real life. Next up is our Holy White, which isn't actually white, it's more of a gray. Its coverage is okay. The smoothness is also okay, not great, but not bad. Sometimes needs a second coat, depending on what you're going for. It's not one that I've used a ton just because I don't really have a lot that I want to paint white. So since it doesn't actually come out as white, I don't love it. But since I don't have a lot to paint white anyways, it's not really a huge issue. And then we have our speed paint medium, which isn't really a color, so there's not a whole lot to talk about, and I didn't paint that top. If you guys found this helpful and are going to do something similar or something different, please leave that in the comments below. Thanks for watching our video where I tested my Army Painter Speedpaints and let you know what I thought of their colors. Well, I think there's a decent range of colors. I'm really looking forward to getting our Speedpaint 2.0 Mega Set for even more variety. I hope you found this video helpful. As someone new to this hobby, these paints were perfect for me for getting started. So if you're also new, or if you're just looking to try something different from normal acrylic paint, these might be worth giving a try. If you have any questions or comments about the paints I used in this video, please leave them down below in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.